All right, this is not so much a presentation as is a couple pictures. But I know there's been a lot of conversation out in the community regarding the upcoming graduation. I want to be clear to say there was talks about a survey and asking everyone where they would like to have the graduation. I just want to be clear that if I voted on a survey, I would pick the turf, because that's where I would want to have the graduation too. Now, unfortunately, that's not a realistic option for this class. But we have spent a considerable amount of time talking with students, parents, staff, administrators, our technology department, custodians, grounds crew, among others, receiving feedback regarding how we can best acknowledge the class of 2025. Some of the many items we considered throughout those meetings were considering date changes, changing the location, changing how we run the processional in and out of the graduation, the landscape for pictures, athletic conflicts, scope of the work that needs to be accomplished, including replacement of the track, which is something that could not be done over the winter, construction timeline, handicap accessibility, our ability to live feed this both indoor and out to the internet, inclement weather plans, as well as seating capacity. One thing that came through time and time again was that the preference was to host this outdoors, and they wanted an outdoor option. The turf no longer being an option, the students, when Mr. Mello met with the students, they quickly shot down many of the options we had presented in terms of changing locations. They had no interest in changing the date. They had no interest in cutting out a piece of the turf and moving the turf. They had no interest in. Most of their conversations focused around not doing the things that their parents wanted them to do, which we found ironic. But really, they wanted to be together, and they wanted an opportunity to be acknowledged and to celebrate together, and that's what really mattered most to them. But certainly, the preference was to have it outside. So that really started a conversation regarding the feasibility of using the baseball field, and that ultimately becoming the best option. You could excuse my lack of graphic artistic skills here, but so what this is just simply a screenshot of Google Earth, and this shows the outfield of the baseball field, where we would propose putting down the same plastic flooring that we utilize on the turf. We would also create some sort of plastic walkway so the students could walk during the processional out to the seating area without high heels sinking into the grass. On the bottom of the hill, we would look to have parent bleachers. So we would ensure we had seating for at least 2 parents for each of our graduates at the bottom of the hill. So approximately 140 graduates, so we would make sure we had at least 280 seats there. Those bleachers would be rented. So we would rent them from a company who would come install them, set them up, and then take them down after completion of the event. Unfortunately, if it rains, that's a significant expense that the district's going to expend and not utilize. On the top of the hill is another flat area. We would be able to put additional bleachers up there. So we're still exploring the ability to utilize bleachers we have on site, possibly utilizing bleachers that are available at the town park, just to create sort of an overflow area on top of the hill. Obviously, this angle here is meant to show it's a pretty steep hill on the way down. While we don't expect anyone to sit on the hill, nobody's expected to bring a beach chair or a blanket and sit on the hill. It's still an option if someone decided to. They would be able to sit on the hill and be unobstructed from either the parent bleachers or the bleachers on top of the hill. So just another angle showing it really is a kind of natural viewscape for parents and for the bleachers to be able to clearly see the whole student seating area. So regardless of where the student was seated, parents would have the ability to clearly see them, which was something that I know came up time and time again, was parents wanted to be able to view their children, whether they were in the front row or the back row. And the last angle really shows, it's actually a very picturesque landscape out there in terms of you'll see the sunset from there, you'll see the hills from there. I'm teasing, I'm going to auction off Ms. Zecca's luxury suite. Ms. Zecca's office has the most beautiful view on campus. It overlooks that exact area. So if anybody wants to chip in for a luxury suite, I'm sure we can come up with some more doors or something. You could watch right out the window, it'd be perfect. But again, this is another angle of showing really what the landscape can look like for the outdoor graduation. So we think that this is our best solution for an outdoor proposal. So we would go with this as our primary option. Obviously, weather, as always, is a concern, more so with this setup than even on the turf. A substantial rain the day before or days before could significantly impact our ability to have this. But if it's a beautiful sunny day, we would obviously do everything in our power to hold this outside. If the weather does force us inside, like has happened the last 2 years, the pack is still available on that day because this is our original graduation scheduled date. So the pack would be an option. Unfortunately, the pack would be the option as it has been in the past, where the students all seated on the stage. There would be no risers for the inside option if we're forced inside, because really the district would be making a significant investment to the outdoor graduation space between the plastic flooring for the students, the chair rentals, as well as the bleacher rentals. Did I leave anything out?
No, sounds great.
Sounds great.
Dr. Luft, the students would get to the student seating via the gym as they always did and just cut right to the student seating?
So we haven't worked out, come on up. We haven't worked out the full details for it, but I know that Mr. Mello has some ideas regarding the processional.
We're going to try and use parachutes this year and just kind of drop them all in. We think that would be a much more exciting effect, especially if we have fireworks going off in the background too. But no, I think one of the things that the parents talked about is they love that procession down the hill towards the turf. And because we have the stairs there, one of the things that we're throwing around is that the students would kind of go through the front of the building, walk around the building, and then come down the stairs.
Down the stairs, okay.
Yeah, so, the stairs, down the exterior stairs.
Right.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't come out of in the past, we used to, do the photographs and stuff and bring them out the gym, up the stairs, and then around. You would have them come out the front, down the stairs, then to the seat.
Exactly. So they
Okay.
can still see this procession coming down
Yeah.
towards where the graduation is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, we could always have them just come out of the wellness center. But I think if we talk about parents wanting to see a procession, we
Yeah.
definitely have a way that we can do that.
Okay, good, thank you.
One other thing I'll throw in there, I don't want to jinx anything, but why is there no positive jinxes? It's always a negative jinx. There's no positive jinxes. That really bothers me. But anyway, if we did have to move it indoors, whenever we've had to move it indoors in the past, it's been like a last minute, let's go indoors. And there really hasn't been any thought put into, okay, when it's over, what happens next? So we've been spending a lot of time trying to craft an idea of how the end of the ceremony wraps up, where we'd bring everybody to like the wellness center. We could have things set up in the wellness center for photographs and things like that. And we could also set up stuff outside if it ended up being nicer out, like in the courtyard and things like that. So we're planning more for the end of the ceremony. In the past, it's been like ceremony's over,
Right.
and you have 1,000 people in the main hall, all moving, 1 inch an hour to try and get out of that space. So there's more thought going into if it had to be moved indoors, how we make that more special for all those families.
Keep our fingers crossed that the weather is good then, at that time.
I've had 3 kids graduate, 2 of them been indoors. So
Yeah, I know.
my percentage is terrible.
So I just want to clarify, there's more, you had mentioned 2 tickets per parents downstairs, or down the bottom bleachers, but there's more, they will receive more than 2 tickets. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, we can still issue the same 6 tickets that we've always issued. Always when it's been outdoors, anybody can show up. It's just that outdoors on the bleachers, if it's on the turf, we can accommodate 6 tickets per family on the bleachers. Other family friends can show up and stand all around. The similar situation will happen here, where we'll have the parents being able to sit on the bleachers. We'll have other bleachers up top, but I think anybody could come in. We'll try and use some of that fencing that the baseball uses for the home run fence for a baseball. We'll try and use that to kind of like section off the field where the students are going to be. But that will allow more people to show up and be a part of the ceremony.
And it'll be handicap accessible somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is handicap accessible as it is right now. Even if, somebody need to come into the high school, take the elevator down to the first floor and head out, on the blacktop to the bleachers, or if they were to show up, we could always still bring them down and around by the turf field and down that blacktop walkway to that area as well. So we have two different ways to get anybody that's handicapped to the bottom of the hill, and it's obvious, it's easy to get people to the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Mr. Mello, do the students know about this plan?
So, like, when I met with the students, they were the ones that really were like, what about this? What about this? What about Lakeland High School? What about, what about the town park? What about the baseball field? And, it really was from them that we started to focus more on the baseball field. So, do all the students know about it? No. But it was definitely something that was talked about with a whole group of students. They tend to be very active on social media. I don't know if you know that, but texting, group chat, social media, they tend to be pretty active there. I didn't want to sit there and say like this is what we're doing when I don't make the final decision. The Board of Ed makes the final decision, but as soon as that decision's made, we'll run with it. I think they'd be very excited about it.
The bottom line is that it satisfies, the needs that I've read on social media, and that is it's here, it's on the same date, it's outside, and the seating and the procession will be all intact. And the parents are on risers. That was a big concern. They want to be able to look down and see their children. So this satisfies everything. We're simply moving from the turf to the next field over. Here, same date, same location. So I think it's outstanding.
And I have to say, what I love about this plan is that, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the idea of the baseball field came from the kids.
Yeah.
This is their day.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited
good
that,
point.
It came from them. They had a voice in the decision and in the ideas. And to your point, I do think that the other population we need to care about are those families that have been looking forward to this day since the moment their child was born, and it does check most of the boxes. So I think this is a really great solution. Thank you so much for taking the time to figure this out.
I think this is a great solution, really.
I know Aiden Cassidy's not here tonight, but I mean, Aiden was like, he was just awesome. Talking about, to us, to the other students, really like a motivating factor behind moving to, the baseball field and utilizing that space as a graduation space. But I gotta say, it was like, students, what do you want to do? I said, I'll go anywhere, wherever you want to go and have the graduation, I'll go do it, and they were the ones that kind of brainstorming and, settled on like the baseball field. They talked about the town park, but logistically, it's a little bit more difficult at the town park.
Yeah.
This, definitely not as difficult, right? Because when we talk about sound, I know Mr. Mahoney could talk about like setting up cameras and everything for a live stream. If it's here, it's so much easier than if he had to, take everything.
Really long wires.
They also went to school here, so it's nice that we can do it on the campus that
Absolutely.
Yeah.
attended.
Yep.
It's great.
Good.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
and
you. Thank you,
I'd
Mrs.
like
Mello.
the seniors to know there was a parent that spoke, and I think it really touched Aiden about, one of your legacies that you can leave to Putnam Valley is the grace of recognizing that to have it on the turf field would impact next year's sports and athletes. And sometimes we don't always get exactly what we want, but sometimes that's also a gift. So
We get what
I'm
we
glad.
need.
Thank you.
Like one thing I've learned over the years of, working in education, kids are really resilient, and they make the best out of everything. One of the suggestions that came up was like a senior sunrise, senior sunset for the seniors where, they could put their gowns on, and when the turf was still there, and I mentioned that to the seniors, and the groans, they're like out of their mind. Like none of them really wanted to take part. They're like, it's just so our parents can take pictures, So I found that was like really interesting. We'll do it, we'll do whatever. We can do a senior sunset if that's what the students want to do. But I love listening to the students. I think they're really intelligent people. They're motivated, and they're willing to work and look at, for solutions that will work for everybody. So I commend them.
Good, thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Good, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you. Great solution.
I think one of the themes that came up when Mr. Mello met with the students was that they were not interested in displacing their junior fellow students off the, you know what I mean? They understood if we pushed the project back, the impact it would have on the juniors. And that was something they were not interested in, right? They didn't want that to be their legacy of causing others to lose an opportunity to play home games for fall sports and things like that. So the students really get it, and they're quick to realize they don't want their graduation ceremony to then have a negative impact on someone else. They were also very quick. They were not interested in moving it into May, which was the other object. They run the risk of conflicting with athletics, the notion of having a classmate
Right.
unable or forced to choose between a sectional baseball game and graduation. The fact that Mr. Mello explained to them that they were still expected to come to school for the next few weeks, that they didn't want to graduate and then have to come back to class. They had no
Good job,
interest
I
in
totally
that
agree.
there's a lot of
That
truth
sounds
to that.
terrible.
at all. So they ultimately made the decision that it was best to stick with the date, and that's what started the conversations around alternative locations and other place we can hold it on campus. And that's when the baseball field conversation started to take off. So Mr. Mello and I have really been running with that. And that's at this point what I plan to recommend to the board. It doesn't require a date change. We have heard from families who have family members flying in or traveling in.
Yeah,
So
important.
the thought of changing the date for them was catastrophic. So obviously this is the date that's been out there. It's the date that's been planned for. We know that the fallback plan of the PAC is available. As Mr. Mello said, we could certainly make that better if we are forced indoors. But outdoor on campus was the resounding ask, and this is the way we think we could best accomplish that, both of those things. Hosting it on school grounds and providing an outdoor location.
Just something to think about to that end of family members flying in. The worst news could be, oh, I have all of this family flying in. I had tickets for them, but now we're moving it into the PAC because of rain, and these people who flew in now cannot come, or I have to give them my ticket as a parent. So I know that we had some sort of overflow room in the
Right.
past.
Yep.
And so the one ask would be to make it as amazing as possible with that scenario for those people who might be flying in as well.
Yeah, nobody's turned away from graduation. Those
was-
6 tickets, all 6 people can't fit in the PAC, but we always provide overflow in
Right.
the cafeteria. It's live streamed right in there, as well as live streamed out to
wonder if
YouTube.
it's a
So
good process.
no family members are turned away, and then anybody who's in the building with the new processional idea of going to the wellness center, then that creates a space where, again, all 6 ticket holders could meet with the graduate following the ceremony
Right.
in that large space. So I think that we have that covered on both for the ceremony as well as following the
Good.
ceremony.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And that's something that, to Matt's point, never really existed before. 1 inch per hour might be a little generous for moving that hallway. But we've already come out, and again, this was, to give them credit, this was really a conversation with a group of parents who came in. We spent a lot of time talking about what happens afterwards if it's in the PAC, and that's where that idea came from.
Great.
So we think regardless, probably all future indoor graduations will now feature that processional out to the wellness center. So it'll benefit whatever class is the next to graduate indoors.
That's great.
Yeah, that's good.
And it provides the community an opportunity to see the wellness center, because the majority of them have not.
Absolutely.
Right.
So,
For sure. And there was no date change, so there's really no vote on behalf of the board that has to take place. So assuming that there's no opposition, we can give Mr. Mello the go-ahead to
Absolutely.
share with this group of seniors. And again, if they have feedback or other ways in which they think we can improve this setting, we will certainly be receptive to hearing that. I know one of the things that we spoke about today was making sure that the processional passes the parent bleachers. So while they'll come down the stairs and down the sidewalk, they'll maybe come down to the middle of the parent bleachers and then straight down into the student seating area.
Sure.
Nice.
So they're not cutting the corner and not walking past the bleachers, but instead processing right in front of the bleachers and then down to
And
the
then
seating area.
divided, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And
So we'll continue to refine the details.
it's important, you had mentioned, Matt, or you, Dr. Luft, the pathway. It will be provided, so kids don't sink. And,
Yeah, so we'll extend this plastic flooring straight up to where the parent bleachers are.
great.
And that'll provide a safe walkway for all students to get to the student seating area.
I still don't recommend high heels on
Right.
that. I wouldn't recommend it on the turf.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean people won't go that route.
Yeah, the plastic flooring itself has little
Yeah, I
divots
know.
in it, so high heels are still not encouraged.
Sounds good.
Wedges are great.
Wedges are encouraged,
Yeah.
whatever a wedge is.
Excellent.
Sneakers are better.
All right, any other questions, comments about graduation recommendation?
Thank you for
Yeah, really.
trying and.
For innovating.
Retrying and
Yeah.
re-looking and keeping an open mind, because I think that's,
We promised from the beginning to be open and receptive to feedback from parents, from students, from community members, and this is, after receiving all of that feedback, this is the best option that we were able to come up with, and we think that parents will be happy with it. We think our students will be happy with it, and I think it'll be a memorable day for everyone.
Yeah, once this occurs, archive the whole idea so
Yep.
that in the future, when
Yep.
we replace it 10, 15 years in the future.
Maybe
you
this
have
will
that.
be the new standard. Maybe it'll be so good that this is where they want graduation.
Could very well
I have
be.
to tell you, the
It
thought
could very
actually
well be.
crossed my
Yeah.
mind, because when I saw that view from Ms. Zecca's office, I was quite impressed, actually.
So you want the luxury suite.
I might pay for that, actually, to pay it forward for,
I can tell you one
years.
thing. It'll be,
Yeah,
You have a great view up here.
it's beautiful.
I can promise
It's
one thing,
beautiful.
the student seating area will probably be 20 to 30 degrees cooler than it would be out on the
There
turf.
is truth
Right.
to that. Yeah.
Yes, and I just want to say that I think that this is a beautiful example of how, a challenge can really benefit us in the future, and we can come up with innovative ideas that now is going to better all of our graduations going forward. So, very exciting.
Just one other quick comment. I do want to note that these pictures are obviously what's available on Google Earth. So you can see our lovely football field lines in this picture, as well as the outline of the baseball fence. As I know Mr. Spittle has shared before, his buildings and ground staff spent nearly a month preparing for graduation. So now a majority of their efforts will be placed on this location, on this field. There'll obviously be no striping. This is probably the best time of year for this field in terms of late spring. Grass will all be grown in. There'll be no lines. There'll be no brown spots. There'll be no dead spots. So I know that our buildings and ground staff will take exceptional care of this area of the campus leading up to graduation to make it as pristine as possible for the actual ceremony.
be
So
great.
I don't want anyone to
Gonna
look
be
at the
great.
picture and think that they're going to graduate on the 20-yard line. I guess that would happen on the turf anyway, but or that big bald spot will be there. Not that there's anything wrong with bald spots, but they will not see the solar panels from this angle. See, look, no solar panels. Looking away. Okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.